For centuries, the idea of an oral continent, a place without a written history, has made it hard for us to understand Africa. This story is not only not complete, it is also very wrong. Africa is not a continent without writing. It is a continent whose extensive and varied literary traditions have been unexamined and await discovery in the annals of history. This is a trip into that library of African historiography, which is a long list of the scribes, scholars, and kings who wrote their own histories in their own words for thousands of years. We start our journey on the banks of the Nile in the strong kingdom of Kush, which is now in Sudan. This civilization thrived for more than 1,000 years, building pyramids and ruling a huge area. At first, the Kushites, who were in charge of their own land, used the writing of their northern neighbors. They used Egyptian hieroglyphs to write about their world in a clear and powerful way. The Kushite king Pa not only conquered Egypt in 727 BC, but he also had a huge record of his victory made. The Great Triumphal Stela is a 6-foot-tall granite slab with a detailed account of his campaign on all 4 sides. This is the longest royal inscription ever found in Egyptian hieroglyphs. It shows how powerful he was as the founder of Egypt's 25th dynasty. But the Kushite royal chronicles weren't just about winning battles. The stelae of King Aspelta from the late 7th century BC read like a political thriller. They tell a shocking story about a crime. The powerful priests of the god Amun conspired to put a rival ruler in power using a fake oracle. Aspelta's inscription tells of his important action, killing the traitors. Later, the names of Aspelta's female ancestors were purposefully erased from the stone, which is a sign of a later political struggle that rejected his mother's lineage. These aren't dry records, they're real-life dramas carved in stone. The Kushites eventually made their own way and created the Meroitic script so they could write in their own language. Many aspects remain enigmatic. However, inscriptions attributed to the formidable Queen Amanirenas from the 1st century BC are thought to chronicle her military endeavors against the encroaching Roman Empire. In the highlands of Ethiopia and Eritrea to the east, the kingdom of Aksum became powerful. It controlled trade routes from the African interior to the Red Sea and beyond. King Ezana, who ruled in the 4th century and made his kingdom Christian, wrote a lot about his own reign. He had at least 11 huge stelae made. His inscriptions are often in 3 languages, which helps historians compare and understand the languages. They record his wars of expansion with amazing detail, including a full account of his campaign against the Noba people in Kush, which he dates exactly to March 4th, 360 AD. Aksumite scholars were experts at writing by hand, in addition to stone. The Aksumayet collection, which was found recently, is a Ge'ez Codex, or ancient book from the 5th to 6th centuries. It has important texts about the history of the early Christian church, such as a version of the lost Greek apostolic tradition. This, along with the well-known Garima Gospels, which are one of the oldest illustrated Christian manuscripts still in existence. As we go west, we see a new flowering of literary culture starting in the 11th century. This was because the great Sahelian empires, Ghana and Kanem, were so cosmopolitan. In the cities of Esuk, Gao, and Sani in Mali, there are more than 100 epitaphs, tombstone inscriptions, that are the oldest writings still in existence. They are written in Arabic and list the names and deaths of local rulers and elites, with Songhay, Mande, and Berber names from the 11th to the 15th century. One even tells the story of Amalika, a ruling queen who died in 1119 AD. This gives us a look at what women in power did. There was a lot of intellectual exchange during this time, and one of the most famous scholars of the time was Abu Ishaq Ibrahim Al-Kanem. Al-Kanemi was born in the Kanem-Bornu Empire around 1159 and began an amazing journey to learn more. His destination was the famous Ghana Empire. Ghana was well known as a major center for Islamic learning by the 12th century. The Wangara were a group of scholar merchants who built advanced centers of learning all over the region. This was their home. In the 12th and 13th centuries, the city of Jenne alone was thought to have more than 4,200 scholars, which was more than or equal to the number of scholars in many European university towns at the time. In this land of gold and scholars, Al-Kanemi learned Arabic grammar and poetry. His education in Ghana helped him do well at the Almohad court in Marrakesh, where he became a famous poet with the help of the Caliph himself. His life is a strong example of the intellectual networks that linked the continent. Al-Kanemi was part of a tradition that would only get stronger. The next few hundred years saw the writing of some of the most important historical works in African history. Ibn Furtu, a Kanuri scholar who worked for the Kanem-Bornu ruler Mai Idris Aluma in the 16th century, was a royal historian. He wrote two long histories of his patron's military campaigns, the Ghazawat Banu, the Book of the Bornu Wars, and the Ghazawat Kanem, the Book of the Kanem Wars. These are some of the oldest historical manuscripts from West Africa that are still around. They are full of political and strategic information in Timbuktu, which was an intellectual center further west. A new type of historical writing called the Tariq, or chronicle, came about. These great works told the story of the whole region in amazing detail and breadth. Al-Sadi wrote the Tariq al-Sudan, Chronicle of the Sudan, in 1655. It is one of the best works of West African history. It follows the political and social history of the area from the rise of the Ghana Empire in the 8th century to the fall of the Songhai Empire in the late 16th century. Al-Sadi was a scholar from Timbuktu, and his chronicle is full of stories about scholars, political intrigue, and everyday life. The Tariq al-Fatash, which Ibn al-Mukhtar wrote in 1664, is another complete history of the Songhai Empire and the empires that came before it. Later, in the 1840s, it was heavily edited, but the original text is still a very important source for learning about the political situation in medieval West Africa. These chronicles were not composed in solitude. They were part of a lively intellectual scene in Timbuktu, a city that had thousands of manuscripts and drew scholars from all over the Islamic world. The Tariq genre shows a deep understanding of how to tell a historical story, paying attention to time, cause and effect, and how people shape events. 3 kingdoms made up Christian Nubia: Nubadia, Makuria, and Alodia. They were between Kush and Christian Ethiopia. These successor states came into being after Kush fell in 360 AD and became Christians in the 6th century. Most of the over 6,000 documents found from these kingdoms are legal texts, land sales, and epitaphs. However, a few are very important for history. The Pharas foundation stone, which was written in Greek in 707 AD, is a memorial to the rebuilding of the Cathedral of Mary at Pharas. It tells us the name of the Makurian king, Mercurios, the date it was built, and the name of the bishop, Paulos. This isn't just a building inscription. It's a way to learn about how Nubians lived and worked in the Middle Ages. Another inscription from 930 AD made by Iesu, the Ipash, governor of Nubadia, gives the date of King Zacharias' reign. Historians can put together the political history and religious culture of Christian Nubia, a civilization that lasted for almost 1,000 years, by looking at these inscriptions, graffiti on church walls, and murals. This literary tradition wasn't just in West Africa. In the Christian highlands of Ethiopia, a new dynasty that said it was descended from the biblical King Solomon rose to power in the 14th century. They hired the Kebra Nagast, the Glory of Kings, a 14th century epic that mixes biblical stories, Ethiopian legends, and political propaganda to make their rule seem more legitimate. It tells the story of the Queen of Sheba's visit to Solomon and the birth of their son, Menelik I, who is said to have brought the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia. This text became the basis for Ethiopian identity and was even used in Ethiopia's 1955 constitution. But the Kebra Nagast was only the start. At least 20 royal chronicles were written by Ethiopian emperors. Each one tells the story of a different emperor's reign. One of the most famous is Emperor Amda-Sion's Glorious Victories, which was written in 1332. It talks about his military victories and how he took over different states in eastern and central Ethiopia. This gives us a lot of information about how medieval Ethiopians fought and ran their governments. There were also many hagiographies or lives of saints next to these royal chronicles. These texts give a lot of information about Ethiopian social history, such as how Christianity spread, how monasteries were built, and how regular Ethiopians lived their lives. One of the most amazing is the Acts of Walata Petros, which was written in the 17th century. During the reign of Emperor Susenyos, Jesuit missionaries tried to convert Ethiopia to Catholicism, but Walata Petros, a female saint, fought back. Her hagiography is a strong story about how women played a role in Ethiopian religious life and how they fought against religion. At the same time, scholars in the Muslim city-states of the Horn of Africa, such as Hara and Mogadishu, wrote their own histories. The Walazma Chronicle, which was written in the late 1500s, tells the family history of the Walazma rulers of the Kingdom of Ifat. There is also an anonymous chronicle that tells the history of the Horn from the time of the Ethiopian king Zara Yacob in the 15th century to the time of the Sultan of Harar, Nur ibn Mujahid, in the 16th century. These texts, along with detailed court records from Harar, keep track of the history of the sultanates in the area and how they interacted with Christian Ethiopia in complicated ways. Let's go back to the story of Abu Ishaq Ibrahim Al-Kanemi, because his journey is the heart of this whole story. Al-Kanemi was born in the oasis town of Bilma, in the Kanem-Bornu Empire. His contemporaries said he was jet black in hue, which shows that he was clearly of sub-Saharan African descent. He also said he was related to the Dakwan branch of the Banu Sulaim, Arabs who moved to Egypt in the 11th century. He had a complicated identity that was a mix of different cultures from the medieval Sahel. It wasn't easy for him to go to Ghana to learn. It would have taken months to walk more than 1,500 miles across the Sahara and the Sahel. But it was worth a trip to Ghana because it was known as a place of learning. He would have studied with the Wangara scholars there, learning the ins and outs of Arabic grammar, the art of classical poetry, and the depths of Islamic law. Around 1197 or 1198, Al-Kanemi came to Marrakesh, the beautiful capital of the Almohad Caliphate. Caliph Yaqub al-Mansur supported him because he was a great poet and knew a lot about Arabic grammar. But he did have some problems along the way. People were racist against Al-Kanemi because of his dark skin, but he didn't let that stop him. Instead, He faced it through his art, writing strong poems in support of his blackness. He wrote poems to his wife, Zahra, a white woman he married in Marrakesh, and he talked to other poets like Al-Jaral about his identity and dignity. The 19th century historian Ahmad al-Nasir al-Salaw quotes one of his poems to show how good he was at writing poetry. He took off his veil, but my eyes, out of awe, saw him through a veil. His favor drew me near, but being near, out of awe, I found myself distant. Al-Kanimi eventually moved to Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain, where he lived in Seville and kept working on his studies until he died in 1212 AD, when he was 53 years old. His poetry has only survived in bits and pieces, but his legacy lives on as proof of the intellectual connections between Africa and the rest of the Islamic world. The evidence is clear, detailed, and overwhelming, from the stone stele of ancient Kush to the royal chronicles of Ethiopia, from the Tariq of Timbuktu to the verses of a traveling poet. Africa does have a written history, even though some people think it doesn't. It is a continent with many written histories, a library of voices that need to be heard.
We begin our journey in the Great Lakes region of Africa. The Anu, migrants from the Great Lakes region, were the first settlers of the Nile Valley. The first written scripts were found in Abydos and dated to about 3400 BCE. These predate the cuneiform script of Sumer by at least 2 centuries. The Scorpion King was a ruler of Upper Kemet in the pre-dynastic period. The first dynasty covers the first series of kings to rule over a unified Kemet, the Old Kingdom. It is also known as the Age of the Pyramids, encompasses the reigns of the great pyramid builders such as Khufu and Khafra. The Kerma culture was based in the southern part of Nubia, or Upper Nubia, in parts of present-day northern and central Sudan. The Middle Kingdom started from the reunification of Egypt under the reign of Mentuhotep II in the 11th dynasty to the end of the 12th dynasty. Thutmose III attacked Nubia, but only went so far as the 4th cataract of the Nile. The new kingdom included some of Kemet's most famous kings, including Ahmose I, Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Amenhotep III, Akhenaten, and Tutankhamun. 25th dynasty, or the Napatans, after their capital Napata. Notable pharaohs include Shabaka, Taharka, Shebitku, and Tantamani. Kemet had fallen by this time due to various invasions: Assyrians, Persians, Greeks. Through the conquest of Alexander the so-called Great, Romans, and in more recent times, the Arabs whose descendants currently occupy a land that has been renamed Egypt by colonizers. Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.